and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Once again, a big showdown is happening in the Senate. Senator Bernie Sanders versus Joe Manchin. That's right. These two titans are going head to head. But what I have to say is, Bernie, it's almost too little too late at this point. And, you know, all this power and influence that Manchin has, I just want to, before we play this video, I want to remind Bernie Sanders that you have also the same amount of following and power that Manchin has. Hell, dare I say it, you have even a larger social media following than Manchin. You could have hosted town halls and online events if you're worried about COVID or any kind of outbreaks happening at large stadium arenas. You could have rallied your supporters for the early days of the Biden-Harris administration to push Biden to the left. You could have done so much, Bernie, but you didn't do that because, remember, Biden is your good friend, and your good friend constantly placated the Sinema and Manchin so much. And remember, it's Biden who allowed Manchin and Sinema to basically, through their own power by themselves, take that Build Back Better from $7 trillion now down to $1.75 trillion. So while it is good seeing Bernie Sanders call out Manchin, you're late to the game. You're late to the game as always, Bernie. So let's hear Bernie Sanders make this impassioned speech about dealing with Manchin and Sinema. So let's play this first video right here.
What will be the end of the year without Build Back Better? There's multiple. And the other is
Okay, so Bernie, you could have done my way or the highway. You have the social media following. You have the political power, or you did at one point, because there's a lot of people disillusioned. But here's the thing. It's easy right now, because there's a bigger part to play here in regards to just how pathetic the entire system is. Because right now, a lot of blame is being put on Manchin and Sinema, right? These are the two people that are holding back the Build Back Better, who basically negotiated it down from $7 trillion down to $1.75 trillion. So Bernie, if anything, you should be demanding it be back up to $7 trillion, its original number, and be fighting hard for that. Dare I say it, even calling out your good friend Joe Biden, your friend Joe Biden who constantly placates the Manchin and Sinema. But see, the thing is, there's a thing called money in politics in America. Now, I know the Republican lawmakers in the Senate, they're never going to be for anything helping out working class citizens. That is to be expected. That's low-hanging fruit. We know what to expect from the Republican senators. We know what to expect. It's just that easy. But here's the thing. It could have been more than just Manchin and Sinema. Hell, it could have not been Manchin and Sinema because Big Pharma, lobby groups could have lobbied out against any other Democratic senator be against the But the thing is, what Bernie Sanders also needs to do is call out the fact that we need to get rid of Citizens United and McCutcheon's decision, where money is speech, corporations are people, and corporations can buy off our politicians. Our entire government has legalized bribery. So see, the thing is, Bernie, you could call out the hypocrisy of the Democratic establishment. You could call out the hypocrisy of the fact that we have legalized bribery in this country. And if there's anything there to help out working class citizens, of course it's going to be torpedoed away, but what you could do is maybe rally your supporters, use your political muscle, actually work together with the House progressives, get everyone together on social media, show up on independent media, raise the ruckus. But you're not doing that. You're going on corporate media and you're just going after Manchin and Sima. That's fair enough. Go after them, of course. But there's a bigger fight ahead here. And the thing is, not only do you have to deal with the Republican establishment, you have to deal with the Democratic establishment, and yes, your good friend Joe Biden. But while Bernie is saying words that I agree with, he's not really fighting. He's not really speaking out. He's not calling out the hypocrisy of the Democratic establishment. Because at this point, maybe the fight's out of him. And there's going to be consequences and repercussions of not actually fighting back, not rallying your supporters, because this will impact the Democrats and even the progressive movement in the 2022 midterm election cycle. And as far as I'm concerned, look, at this point, Democrats earn my vote because I'm going to support third parties. So already lost cause, Democrats. That's how I view you. But here's another big issue that the Democrats are going to have to deal with, because Democrats are going to have to face a painful reality as the priorities stumble. So Senate Democrats are stumbling into the end of the first year with the majority with two of their biggest priorities, President Biden's spending bill and voting rights, stuck in limbo. The Democrats entered the year facing sky-high expectations of what they could accomplish with their base, pushing a lengthy to-do list after the Trump years. Instead, Democrats are on the precipice of wrapping up for the year, facing the painful reality of the limits of a one-vote majority. Now, the thing is, again, in the early stages of Biden's presidential administration, through executive order, make cannabis legalize, make Medicare for all happen, forgive student debt. He didn't need the House or Senate to do that. He could have done those three things. These are three things we got to bring up. And that executive order, any presidential administration can do that. But the Democrats and this Democratic presidential administration of Biden and Harris are choosing not to do that. Because, again, no one in the House progressives, Bernie Sanders, no one pushed back. They decided to take it easy. So that's why Democrats are walking into slaughter, because there's no ruckus. There's no pushback. There's this assumption that everything's fine. Well, let's face it. 40 million Americans are at risk of being evicted from their homes. We have student debt crisis. We have a medical debt crisis. We have so many other issues to deal with, and the Democrats dropped the ball. Continuing on, the setbacks fueled a gas within the caucus and are poised to send Democrats back home to voters and into the 2022 midterm election cycles, where Republicans are feeling increasingly bullish with key pieces of their legislation agenda incomplete. Let me fix this right here. Senator Mays Hirono, a Democrat from Hawaii, called a 50-50 majority problematic, adding, "I've used the word sucks. Yes, I'm frustrated," she said. "I'm afraid we won't retain the majority if we don't pass voter protection legislation, which our constituents also expect us to do." Asked about his message to voters given the multi-front stalemate, Senator Dick Durbin fired back, "Welcome to the United States Senate. I've been here for 25 years, and I've seen the decline of this institution." Remember, Durbin, you said about the banks that run this place. But hey, Dick, you're not really, inspiring a lot of confidence, Dick. So what you need to do, Dick, is actually maybe, I don't know, have a backbone, have some balls, and actually push back against the Democratic establishment. But knowing you, Dick, you're not going to do that because you're just as corrupt as all your other Senate colleagues. Senator Dick Durbin. Like what I did there? So Democrats won back control of the Senate for the first time in 6 years in January, but it's a narrow 50-50 majority that relies on Vice President Kamala Harris's to break the tie. Democrats have faced stumbling blocks even when they can bypass a filibuster. Democrats stripped a 15 per hour minimum wage proposal of the coronavirus relief bill after a negative parliamentarian ruling. Progressive Democrats' dreams of a $6 trillion climate and social spending bill got whittled down to roughly $2 trillion by the time it passed the House, with major climate programs, expanding Medicare to cover dental and pathway to citizenship for millions of undocumented immigrants, all dropped from the bill. I also want to end this article here. This is the same Democratic Party and same presidential administration that are bowing down to the Senate parliamentarian, a non-elected official. The last Senate parliamentarian to go up against a president's administration or policy was fired, and that was under George Bush Jr.'s administration. The Senate parliamentarian is just nothing more but an overglorified secretary. The President of the United States and the Vice President of the United States can overrule the Senate parliamentarian. But what did the Biden-Harris administration do? Constantly bow down to the Senate parliamentarian. Do nothing. Even Trump's administration was never this weak or pathetic. So Bernie Sanders calling out Manchin and Sinema, rightfully so. Bernie, you've got a bigger issue. You got money in politics and the fact that the Democratic Party could have done changes to help out working class citizens for years. They could have done this early on. And you're going to bat for them, holding out for hope. Where's this great pushback? You know, you calling this out or posting some great things on social media, yeah, these are words I agree with, but until you actually say Joe Biden is a screw-up, until you can actually say that the Senate Democrats are nothing but a bunch of hypocrites, Bernie, I got to put you on mute. Because at this point, we need to look at people who are actually not going to give a damn. People who actually raise the ruckus and rally their supporters to push back. Because going into the midterm election cycle, it will be the canary in the coal mine for how 2024 will play out. And Trump is going to run again in 2024. I'll be surprised if he doesn't, but he's going to run again. We keep on repeating 2016 now. We keep on dealing with the same fear propaganda that we saw in 2016 and 2020, and we're going to be going into the same BS in 2024. We need people who are actually going to fight back and not bow down to the establishment. Because Americans are being left to their own devices. Americans are being abandoned. And at this point, all the feel-good social media statements mean nothing because they're words. It's time for action, not statements, deeds, not words.